Hi, my name is Samuel Schmidt, and I'm a sophomore at Bishop Carroll Catholic High School. I've always been a member of St. Anne. While growing up, I loved reading and listening to Bible stories, but it wasn't the spiritual side of them that I enjoyed. It was the action of the Old Testament stories. I dreaded going to church every week because I found it so boring and unnecessary. I didn't hate God, but I didn't want to spend time with Him either. My prayer life consisted of a few Our Fathers, Hail Marys, and Glory Bees. There wasn't a time I can think of where I knew He was with me, but I was never with Him either. Since I was young, I didn't feel an emptiness or feel like anything was missing. Around 5th grade, my sister began to grow in her faith and gave me a window to what that kind of life was like. I thought what she was saying was crazy and ignored it, but it was still there in the back of my mind. That summer, I went to Totus Tuus for the first time. Totus Tuus is a program in Lyons, Kansas to help young men and women grow in their faith. Over those 3 days, I felt like I grew a little bit, but I had a load of fun and I knew I wanted to do this the next summer. The next year, I was old enough to attend for a week. It was a basic routine: morning prayer, breakfast, a talk, games, mass, lunch, a talk, games, evening prayer, dinner, a talk, night prayer, games, sleep, repeat. As you can see, prayer was a huge part of our day, and the talks were given by the counselors. They shared a story or multiple stories of what brought them close to God and Jesus. On Wednesday night, everyone has adoration and confession before night prayer. While I was praying, I asked God for a sign. During adoration, one of the counselors leads a song occasionally, and I asked God for the next song to be Humble Thyself. I didn't just ask Him for a sign, I asked for a specific song. When the guitar began to play, I thought, this isn't the right song. It's okay. I know you're still there. After I accepted that this was the wrong song, the counselors began to sing Humble Thyself. I was shocked and I looked down at my songbook that I had opened to that song. It was right there in front of me, and at that moment, I felt God's presence. Before this, my relationship with God was barely going anywhere. After this happened, I decided I need to focus on my relationship with God. I began going to confession monthly and improved my prayer life. This took a lot of commitment, but it was something I had to do. I did improve these things, but I wasn't doing it with passion. I felt like I was obligated to do it for the next few years. It didn't fully feel like it was my own choice. St. Anne offered adoration and confession, and I took advantage of it. Even though I was just going through the motions, it allowed me to get used to this. I slowly became closer to God over these years. I never really addressed praying to Christ. Of course, they're the same person, but I only ever asked God, and I didn't think much about my relationship with Jesus. I tried to work on it, but I had never tried very hard. At the beginning of my freshman year at Bishop Carroll, I began to go to the chapel occasionally, maybe once a week. Around the end of October, I was invited to come with a few people to a haunted house. Before this, I didn't have a strong friend group, but now I had people that I felt really cared about me and wanted me there. Now that I had a solid group of friends, I began to focus on my relationship with Jesus and my faith again. If I've learned anything while doing this, it's that our faith is not easy. It's easy to say, I'll pray later, or let me do this first. It's easy to get caught up in our phones and not look at the world around us or the importance of the Mass and the Holy Eucharist. It's hard to drop everything to pray. It's hard to get off our phones and look around. It's hard to trust in Him when it feels like everything's falling apart around us. Even in our darkest times, He's always there. God has His perfect plan for us and is blessing every step. In the last few years, I've taken a hold of my own faith and made it mine. I try my best to go to the chapel every day and go to every school Mass at Carroll. I'm not perfect, and sometimes I fill that time doing something else. And I still have a hard time believing that everything happens for a reason, but I'm working on it. Sometimes we just have to trust in Him. As St. Padre Pio would say, hope, pray, and don't worry.